Coach, Jalen's talked about how you helped him before you were the receivers coach. You were in the QC role. You were helping him sort of navigate last season and some of his disappointments. What's it been like from your standpoint watching him take off like he has this season?
It's been good. I think because, like the first part you mentioned, is being a part of that story the entire way. It's cool to see it play out into fruition. Similar to Velus, kind of had some similar struggles early, was able to battle through and see success. I think the biggest win in both of those stories, Jalen and Velus, is the younger guys being able to see, like, it's not all about immediate success. It's not all about an immediate result. Like, you got to kind of go through the process, and eventually it'll be worth it. I think that's the most valuable piece.
Adam and Ben.
Yeah, sort of following up on Jalen. Did you and Cody Burns talk about that? That's like a mystery you guys have to solve. Did you see Jalen's talent and think we've got to get this figured out?
Yeah, I think that's the plan with all the guys. Like, I feel like each guy in the room, you got to find a way to get the most out of everybody. And the cool thing about it is, as the season goes on, like, some guys decide and choose to prepare the right way, and then you'll see them be successful. And some, it takes longer. But I think you have that idea for every single guy in the room. You have to coach them hard.
Was there any point, like in the spring or summer or anything, where you maybe went to the other coaches and say, I think Jalen's turned the corner?
Man, I can go back to a couple. I remember specifically in spring, there was a drive. We play really fast, you guys know, but there's a drive in practice where he's tapping his chest and he wants to come out. And I'm telling him, no, like, you're going to stay in and you're going to play. And that drive, he caught like 3 or 4 balls. It's like a 2-minute drive we were simulating versus the defense. And he caught like 4 or 5 balls in that drive while he was tired. And, like, at that point, I'm like, okay, this kid kind of has it. Like, he's turning the corner. And I think the next part was after the spring and the summer. Man, just the work he put in. I challenged those guys to catch 10,000 balls in the month of June and July, and Jalen went for like 13,000, 14,000. He was in here all time of night catching balls on the jug. So I think at that point, I really saw it because it's all about the work you put in.
Kelsey, you mentioned the younger guys and how great of an example Jalen and Velus are for those guys. Just what have you seen from your younger guys as they've developed these last 2 months? Squirrel had some success on Saturday. What have you seen from him? And then also Chaz finally getting onto the field and Caleb as well.
Individually, those guys. So Squirrel, man, I think is starting to get more confident. You see him playing, and he was already fast, and he's playing at a different speed, I think, because he's confident with what we're doing and how we operate. Chaz is a bigger body. He's gotten really confident lately as he's gotten back on the field. He's a guy that plays fast. He just has to be comfortable with what we're doing and also bringing that piece of physicality. But these last couple practices, he's done a really good job. And for Caleb Webb, he's obviously been here. He's played the 1 and the 4, a couple different positions. But he's doing a good job as well of continuing to progress, and he's not allowing special teams in different roles to take away from him on offense. He's doing a good job of taking on all that stuff.
Jimmy, then Reese.
A couple things. Would you talk about the progress of Ramel Keaton and how he has come through in the absence of Cedric Tillman?
Absolutely. Ramel is a guy that you always saw flashes every now and then, but it'd be one play where he takes a step back. You know, he'd go 2 or 3 steps forward and then 1 back, and you just weren't sure if you could get it out of him. I think when Ced went down, Ramel took accountability on himself, and, man, he's preparing at a whole different level because at this point, like, he's the guy. Like, we are counting on him. And I think that goes back, man, really to our room and the camaraderie in our room. Like, I feel like Ramel feels like at this point he can't let his teammates down, and that's added on some urgency to him in the way he's preparing.
And what does it mean to you? It seems like after a receiver catches a touchdown pass, they seek you out for a celebration.
It means I'm the best dancer. So, nah, it's fun to do, man. I remember being those guys and being on the field, and it always gave me great joy running back with my coach, the guy that I sweat blood and, you know, I cried for. Like, I put, you know, everything I had into that guy. It always made a big deal to me when I got back to the sideline, and he was the first one to congratulate me. That always meant a lot, so I wanted to make sure I paid that forward every time.
I was actually going to just ask that same question, but I guess Jalen Hyatt says you mean a lot to him and that you were always there for him. I know we've asked that already, but why do you put so much effort into your guys? Why do you care for them and love them so much?
Man, I think because I've been through it. Like, I've been the guy who was 19, 20 years old like looking for someone to come in and give me answers and to mentor me. And I'm just trying to be the guy that I needed at their age, honestly. It's not about me at all. The biggest benefit I get out of that is seeing those guys go be successful and then build confidence in themselves. That's where I get satisfaction from, truly.
Coach, with the level Jalen's playing at and the trust that Hendon seems to have in him, how dangerous or tough are you guys going to be to defend when Cedric does come back and you have two of those?
I think the more guys you have that make plays, I think you're always dangerous because obviously that affects the defense and whose eyes can go where. You create one-on-one matchups because you can't double or keep more eyes on one guy. Like, I think that's always important and always lethal for an offense to have. For us, we got to shut our ears off. Like, when there's noise, we can't pay attention to it. And when there's chatter talking about us, we can't pay attention to it. Like, we got to continue to keep the process being our focus and continue preparing the way we are. Like, that's got to be our main focus.
Kelsey, when you got promoted, we saw the current guys. They were really excited for you. Talking to recruits, they talk about how really, you do a nice job building relationships. Where does that come from? When did you kind of become a relationship guy? Was it at an early age? Was it in college? Was it after you got out of college? When was it?
Yeah, I think it was early on. Like, I always value family. Always value that feeling of wholeness of a group. I think for me, that's why sports is something I threw myself into at an early age. Because just having a group and coming together with one common goal for me just kind of took me over the top anytime I was in an environment like that. So for me, relationships has always been the main thing. It's part of the reason why I came here to Tennessee with Coach Hype and Coach Golders. It's because when I met those guys, right off the bat, it stood out that they're relationship-oriented and that fit kind of my temperament and who I was. And I don't think you can ever create a bad environment when you got guys that truly value relationships. I think it's always genuine and it's always real. And I think that helps everybody become their best.
Kelsey, obviously the past 4 games without Ced have gone pretty well, statistically. But when he first goes down and you learn, okay, this is probably going to be at least a few weeks, what was your confidence level like, and what did you think? Did you think the group could just keep right on going like he wasn't gone?
Man, my first thought was this is where we earn it. Like, Ced's a great player. Like, you love him. You love all those guys. He's a great player. But when he went down, like, this is where we earn it, right? Like, somebody's got to step up, and, like, we got to turn up a notch. Like, that was exactly my focus. Usually in those moments where we face adversity, it's coming, you just don't know when. And in that moment, like, that's time for you to make a choice to prove to yourself, like, hey, my preparation, who I am, is really true. And so our guys, I kind of had that conversation with them after as a group. And, man, they stood on it. They went to work. And up to this point, they prepared the right way. So I've been pleased with the way those guys have prepared and the way they've came on and gelled together as of late. That same mentality has to be on through the rest of the year.
Coach, 2 things here to finish up. One is Jalen bobbled that ball from Princeton Fant, but otherwise you guys have not had any real issues with drops. Why is that? And 2, how do you keep Cedric from getting too much rust as a receiver aside from running? What has he done? What have you done with him during this rehab process to keep him polished as a receiver?
So, for one, the ability to catch the ball at the wideout position is all focus. Like, we do a great job in practice of forcing those guys to over-exaggerate their eyes on the catch in any scenario, whether it's contested, whether it's down the field. You want to always over-exaggerate your eyes, knowing that in the game, because bullets are flying and my anticipation is up and I got more anxiety, like, you're going to be sped up. So you want to over-exaggerate things in practice. And as far as Ced, kind of helping him, for one, Coach Hype does a great job of keeping our legs under us as receivers with the way we practice and our plan as, our practice plan. And for us, it's just not putting too much on Ced too fast. Like we saw him, the last couple of weeks, he's made progress every day. And as he continues to make progress, it's ultimately going to be up to Ced and Coach Hype when they feel like the kid's 100% that he's going to play. He's done a tremendous job of being in the building, in the training room, getting treatment. Like, he showed progress every single week. And ultimately, when he's ready, he feels like he's 100%, and Coach Hype feels that way also. You guys will see him on the field making more plays.
Thank you, Coach.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Coach, would you evaluate how you feel like the linebackers have tackled so far?
I think we've been adequate. Obviously, we always strive for perfection. We haven't been there. We missed a couple tackles. Some of our backup guys missed some tackles in the second half. Of last week's game that we weren't happy about. But I think the tackling has improved. I think that's one of the reasons we're playing the run a little bit better. But we're striving to get better every week.
Coach, Kentucky right up there with Arkansas, one of the most run-heavy teams in the league as far as run-pass ratio. Just what kind of challenges do they present that way? How different is it?
Unbelievable challenge. Sometimes they could have 3 or 4 tight ends on the field, so they're very multiple in their formations, and they're going to really challenge your run fits. Your gap integrity is going to be very, very big this week. Obviously, they have a pro-style offense. The coordinator came from the San Francisco 49ers, and they're going to give you a lot of different formations that, like I said, they're going to really test your force rules as far as your edges and make sure you're very sound gap integrity-wise. They do a really good job of mixing up tight ends and putting them in as fullbacks, putting them in as receivers, and with the motions and shifts that they do, we're going to have to do a great job with our communication and our obviously overall gap integrity this week.
Coach, back here, what stands out about Will Levis, and what's the key in sort of containing him?
Will, obviously, super, super talented guy. At my previous stop, got a chance to see him at his previous stop. So we know what type of athlete he is. I think he's really settled in as a quarterback, has a rocket arm, very, very accurate, and he's making really good decisions with the football. He's, obviously you guys all see some of the, draft primers. He's very, very well thought of, for those guys at the next level, and you can see why the talent kind of jumps off of the screen. So he's going to be a big-time challenge for us.
Ryan, when you see these sorts of, kind of NFL style, almost not throwback, but almost throwback. His offense is a little bit in some ways that kind of go, downhill, 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 and then hit those big play action passes. You don't see those as much as maybe you used to in the college game. How important is it for pretty much everyone on the back end of the defense to kind of not get kind of run behind on the sides?
Eye discipline is going to be huge. Like we talked about earlier with the earlier question, obviously they're going to run and they're going to present a lot of shifts and motions, and they're going to give you a lot of eye candy. So our eye discipline is going to have to be a big part of what we do on defense, because if we get caught with our eyes in the wrong spot, obviously that's when the big plays in the pass game occur, where they are able to get a guy behind the defense. So, and that's with everybody, not just the secondary. That's the linebackers too when we're in man coverage. So it's going to be a challenge, and that's what makes them good on offense, because they're different. Everybody's kind of gone to the spread philosophy, and even tempo like we run on offense. They're kind of the anti-tempo, where they're gonna obviously take their time, get aligned, and run their plays at their own tempo with obviously with 12 personnel and even 13 personnel with 3 tight ends on the field, which is different, but it works for them. It works for them.
Coach, how valuable is Chris Rodriguez to the running game, and how much better is the running game since his return?
I think he's the catalyst for what they do on offense. I think obviously Will is a tremendous quarterback, and like we talked about earlier, tremendous skill set. But I think their whole identity is running the football, and I think he's one of the best running backs in obviously the SEC. He's a downhill running back that doesn't mind running through arm tackles and creates yardage by creating space for himself. So he's not a bounce outside and try to make you miss. You kind of know where he's gonna be, and how he's gonna be when he shows up. He runs angry, he runs with authority, and we're gonna have to do a great job of meeting his aggression with our own.
After the UT Martin game, Coach Heupel said he wants to see more out of his young guys moving forward. Where do you think the young guys can improve at the linebacker position?
I think that was a team-wide message. I think, after halftime, a lot of those guys, were able to get a lot of reps, which we always say, obviously the experience is invaluable because they're able to play, some quality reps. And we just want those guys to obviously going into Game 7, we feel like the freshmen aren't freshmen anymore and the young guys aren't the young guys anymore. A lot of them are on our special teams and have gotten some reps. So we just want them to play at the level of the starters that we're in. And as far as the linebackers, we weren't perfect by any stretch of the imagination as far as our linebacker play. But I was happy that they were able to get in there, and we could correct some of the things that they did wrong. But I thought they played aggressive, they played hard, they just weren't always assignment sound in that second half versus UT Martin.
Coach, you've talked about in the past how linebackers these days have to be able to kind of do everything and be well-rounded. With a matchup like this, do you think your linebackers maybe prefer an opponent that will just line it up and run it at them as opposed to having to play 3 and 4 wide and have to play in space?
It's a mentality. You have to be ready for, every type of offense. If you were asking me when I played, 100 years ago, of course, that's, you want to meet people in the phone booth and see, who's going to be able to win in the phone booth. But, nowadays you have to be prepared to, for every offense. Obviously, as linebackers, we have to be, equally as good versus the pass and the run. But, we want to pride ourselves on stopping the run. So a team that comes in and kind of rolls up their sleeves and they want to run the football, you should get excited as a linebacker. But I think you should get excited as an entire defense because, that we want that to be our identity on defense also, is being able to stop the run.
You said Kentucky is sort of anti-tempo. Is it good for you guys to speed them up to get them sort of out of their comfort zone?
In what way do you mean?
Pressure, just make them have to play more of the type of tempo like your offense plays.
I think we are one of the best teams in the country. Coach Banks does a great job of just trying to create havoc plays where, obviously our tackles for loss numbers have been high and we try to pressure the quarterback. That's kind of our identity. Now, whether that makes them, play faster, I'm not 100% sure. That would be, their up to their coaches. But, we're always going to be multiple on defense and we're going to always try to get them off schedule. And if that means they're going to speed up, what they're doing on offense, hopefully that means it's an advantage for us.
Ron, I know that, obviously football these days it can be a lot different. And as a linebacker especially, you might be covering a slot receiver one play and then a tight end and then a running back out of the backfield. And that's not an easy thing to do. How have your guys sort of fared in pass coverage this year compared to what you thought they'd do?
I'm going to say this, as a coach, you always assume they're going to be 100%, right? That's what the goal is coming out of camp. So my expectations for them is to be, in that higher percentile that we're going to be, really good versus the pass. I feel like we have gotten better. There have been some plays that have been left out there, in some of the one-on-one situations where we had a chance to affect the ball. I think we've been okay, not great. But I feel like we've gotten better, but obviously nowhere near where it needs to be. Like I've stated many times, pass defense is a all 11, responsibility from the rush to, the cover guys, on the back end. And obviously we can get better. But in our one-on-one situations, whether that be zone or man, I feel like we can improve. We got to get our hands on more footballs, especially when, obviously the ball is directed towards someone we're covering.
Thank you, Coach.
All right. Thank you, guys.